Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Liv and Natalie show. We were jokingly calling it coffee time, but neither one of us have coffee. So, welcome, welcome to the space with us. We're excited to
Did
create
you say
this.
welcome to the spaceship?
Maybe I think I said space, but
Oh,
spaceship too. Welcome to this space slash spaceship with us.
oh, interesting. I thought you said welcome to the. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we're excited to have you with us and are looking forward to the ripples that will be created from this conversation. But mostly we just hope that it's supportive for you. And as always, anything we share if it doesn't resonate, it's all good. You can release and
Spit it out. That's it. Put it in the recycle bin.
I swear we always try to not start these videos by laughing, but we can't help it.
No.
Honestly. But yeah, so welcome. Whatever resonates, keep it. What doesn't resonate, let it go. All good.
Moving on.
Moving on.
And that's it.
And that's it. That's the video.
Oh my god.
Okay, for the. So yeah, we have a few things we want to talk with you, or I guess we're going to talk about. Not going to talk with you about, but we're going to talk about with each other, and some things that have been in our awareness, and some things that we've been curious about and noticing. Um, yeah, and so Liv, I pass the mic to you.
It was like if you have a little thought cloud, it's all dot dot. Speech. Okay. Dot 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 dot. The meditation is working, but not so good when you need to say something. Okay. Yeah, Natalie and I were sharing before we started recording, and yeah, we were sharing ideas and sharing, just kind of catching up a little bit on what you've been noticing, what I've been noticing, and yeah, we were talking about energy hooks and things like that, and I was letting you know, as we were just talking about, that I've had these experiences throughout my life of, it's been part of my soul's growth and evolution, that it's a lot of times it's difficult. Like, it's difficult to say no, it's difficult to say no to things or to assert boundary. But it's also, what I've noticed through my soul's growth and evolution is that it's important, it's important, and to understand like why we're saying no, that's helpful, to understand why we're saying no and what we are saying no to.
Yeah.
So I've in the past, I guess it's been, a couple of years for sure, I was telling you that the other day when we were catching up, that I found myself saying no more than yes, but that trusting in that the no is also, it's saying, like, kind of the way that we're constantly in a dialogue, energy dance with the universe, the universe that gives rise to all matter, that we are matter for a while, until we're not.
but we do matter.
But we matter for a while. I feel like the controller are just jumping through me. Like,
Yeah.
And it is that, you I know that you're very attuned to Kentumle and different beings, and when they kind of breeze in, or into the,
Somersault in.
yeah, they somersault in, they dance, they backflip. They do it in a very stylistic way, and what they're just showing me too, that those somersaults and those that it's a kind of like physics, kind of physics of the way the energy moves. But that is connected also to what I was mentioning to you, is that an ongoing study that the Contemple, like me, a student of energy, a student of spirit, that they show me, I can, when they make my mind go blank, it's because they're about to say that there are group agreements that are happening, like these consensual agreements, that even if they're not saying, a lot of times they are saying it also, but sometimes even they're saying one thing, but the whole energy is saying something else.
Yeah.
So they're saying they stand for something, and the energy is saying something totally different. Oh, and the way that they show me, the Contemplate show me this a lot, is where we notice, does my energy feel expansive here? Or does it feel like it's contracting? Or does it feel like it goes, just bottoms out?
Yeah.
And those energies that I'm speaking about, I notice if I even feel it, my energy bottoms out. And so that's all I need to know, really, And so I feel like for, I don't know, maybe everybody, I don't know, a lot of people, it feels like so much of the kind of ways that we're being tested, or these kinds of like rite of passages, these initiations are, what would be the question? The question would be something like, will you hold this truth even if it means that everybody's going to turn away from you, all of your friends, all of your loved ones? Can you hold that truth still? For whatever the truth is. But we are here, I believe, to, we're here, our souls are here to learn certain things, and it's different, it's really different for all of us. And so, I find it helpful to remember that. And so even if it means, this is what I've noticed in my journey, that I might travel with some souls for a while, and then it's time to connect with other souls. And that this is, like I was mentioning to you also, that it's for the purpose of evolution. It's because I'm not here to, I don't want to go backwards. I want to evolve. And if it's not a catalyst for evolution, I mean, of course, anything ultimately can support our growth, even that which feels like really grating or something can, of course. But still, I find that it's helpful to acknowledge that we're also beings made of energy. And if there's a kind of like void of life force, or a void of, I don't even know exactly what I'm saying, I'm just describing the feeling. Then I notice that, and I find it helpful to stay close to life, to nature. When we go into nature, how do we feel? And we are nature. And if we are remembering our nature, I believe, then you're encouraging other plants to grow like each other nature. And you notice that there's actually like that's actually what you want to do, because we're being life, we're being like, nature is inherently generous. So I was noticing that I've had this experience, if it's even like, let's say in relationships or something, and you say, and it can be really hard to, because there's the fear of whatever, the fear of loneliness, the fear of whatever, the fears that come, the fears that can keep somebody staying in a situation that is keeping them small, diminished, feeling not so great about themselves or whatever,
Mhm.
So then to notice that and to say, you know, to choose life, choose to love yourself enough to say, no, I know in my heart, you know, I don't need anybody else to believe this, but I know what I know in my heart, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and to let it be like that and to notice that the energy grows. And sometimes it means that you kind of just like are there for a little bit and you're just kind of like singing your true soul song in your energy field.
Mhm.
And then, oh, okay, so that's what you and I were talking about too, of different souls, like, oh, okay, I resonate with that,
Yeah.
you know, aliens basically. What does that say about you?
Yeah, yeah, we brought that in.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Dang.
Well, can I say something actually? Because
Yeah,
or
please. I'm
were you
fascinated.
complete with your
No, no,
thought?
I'm fascinated.
Okay, I was thinking about um, which I know you and Condomble have talked about this many times, and I do agree about this about noticing when you're in spaces where your energy is contracted and when your energy is expansive.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about what I was sharing with you. So I live in the United States. I live in the state New Jersey for uh,
The state that calls itself New Jersey.
known as New Jersey, but it's Lenni Lenape lands. Those are the ancestors of this land, and in the Northeast, it's for those who are not familiar. It's I would say, especially in this like tri-state area, it's very intense. The energy is very intense and sometimes chaotic. More
Mhm.
times than sometimes chaotic. Um, it's very densely populated. It's very um,
Mhm.
like running in the hamster wheel was like the image that comes to mind, like running, running, running type of thing. Like that's the energy of this space
Mhm.
because we've collectively agreed, or consciously or subconsciously agreed as a people, like in this area, to be like that. That's like and heavily influenced by New York City. I think that
Oh, yeah.
you know the New York like attitude and like what culture that has been created. Um, it feels like it's like a, it sends out that energy to the areas around it to like consciously or unconsciously submit to that
Mhm.
culture, is for lack of a better word I can think of.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's funny because this is, and I've lived here all my life. Like, I mean, I lived other places too, but I grew up here. This is where I grew up in this
Mhm.
state. And it's not an energy that I've ever resonated with. It's never felt like home.
Yeah.
And even now, as I speak, I know I'm like, this is not where I'm to live for the rest of my life. If that feels true for me,
Mhm.
because that energy to when I feel into my energy field, what feels true for me, and also what I've experienced of myself in other places,
Mhm.
I realize, oh, okay, this is what home feels like. Being in this energy, like when I was in Bali, for example, that was an
Mhm.
energy feel. I'm like, oh, this feels more like home. It
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, this is home, but it was like more like home.
More like home.
Uh, in different places around the world I can name, but I'm not going to go into that. My point is that sometimes we're in situations where you're here, like spirit wanted me here. Sometimes I'm kicking and screaming, but I'm
Oh,
here, and I'm here for a reason. And so this curiosity I have and something that I play with is like, yes, I notice in ways. I notice that if I consciously give into the collective energy in the place where I'm in, then I will be depleted and I will feel my energy. Um, just had the word.
yeah.
How do you say it?
Diminish?
Contracted or diminished too. That
Contracted.
too. Bottom out, definitely for sure. If
Yeah.
I didn't believe my
Uh-huh.
sovereignty, then I would definitely be bottomed out, like melted on the ground. and
Oh,
not
wow.
being able to function for sure.
Yeah.
But but there's something about like, and I haven't thought about this until you were just speaking right now, and it just kind of sparked this like, oh,
Mm,
of like sometimes, because I'm sure I'm not the only person who have like, it doesn't feel like a unique experience. I'm sure there are many people, perhaps people even listening to this, that are in the experiences where like you're in a space that doesn't feel like this is where this is home for you, but at
mhm,
the same time you're here and you're here for a reason.
mhm,
And you know, I've been playing with like, I was telling Liv before we started recording, I was out earlier today and I was just noticing the polarities are so strong here. And maybe in other places of the world, but like for real, like it's just really strong.
mhm,
Easily you can get stuck into like, there's so many different stories of so many different polarities that are intense energies. And it's very easy to get pulled into any single one of them. And I notice for myself when I'm engaging with the outside world, I have to be conscious of the ways I'm getting pulled into like this. And I'm like, oh, I have a feeling about that. And I'm like, wait, hold on, time out. Like, pause, take a breath, Natalie. Just, you know, you don't like, because what I've learned is that uh, being hooked into those polarities, what it does to me too is that it drains me of my power,
mhm,
and my energy gets constricted.
mhm.
And so like it's a constant, I don't know if constant's the right word, but I'm aware that for me, I can get easily pulled into these different things, and I can easily put my attention onto the things that are outside of me. But at the same time, I also know that like those things that are triggering me, they're pointing to something internally. And if I want to create, because I'm a creator, you are
Mhm,
too,
mhm,
and I know that I'm a creator, and if I want to create an experience and live in a reality that's different than what is currently existing, then I need to be conscious of how my energy is affecting the outside world. And if I'm constantly getting hooked and pulled into these different stories, dynamics, polarities, whatever it may be, then
mhm,
I'm contributing to creating more of that simply
mhm,
by being hooked into it.
mhm,
And it wasn't until like I was sharing with Liv the other day, like I noticed something that for me that I get hooked easily into. I had an experience that would have like, I don't know, a few months ago, maybe not even a few months ago, maybe a month ago. If that happened to me a month ago, I would have been like, wah! And like I was a little triggered, but I wasn't like, wah! I had my ground still, which was honestly just amazing to be able to like, notice like, oh, okay, I was worried about this thing that happened that like a month ago would have totally taken me out. But I was like, no, it's okay. It's all right. I'm looked after. Like I feel silly to say this, but like it's true. Like the universe is looking out for me
mhm,
because I'm also looking out for the universe. It's
mhm,
not like I'm someone special and the universe is looking out for me. I'm like, no, I'm doing my best to be here for the reason why I'm here, and
mhm,
because of that, it creates a dynamic with like an energetic dynamic with all of life,
mhm,
and we
mhm.
have to remember that. And I feel that's something that we we just need to reclaim that,
Yeah.
regardless of what has happened in the past. That's something that is a truth that we need to reclaim. We are creators. We have obviously our healing to do. Like I've done a lot of healing around what I was just speaking to, and that's really the only reason why I was able to not be so activated, because nothing else would say that. you know
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing that you that you transformed that energy in that way. And I know being friends with you through this lifetime and the other lifetimes too is that's yeah, that's that you're dedicated to that, to evolving, and growing and healing and they always do this every time my mind goes blank. It's because they're wanting to say something. Uh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought to do this before, but I'll do it now because they're letting me know that it matters in this moment. So this time I am consciously honoring all of the benevolent beings in the spiritual dimensions, and also what we're also referring to as galactic relatives, off-worlders, that we're remembering your name, and apparently you're also our ancestors. And I honor you all, and I know, even without seeing it with my physical eyes, I know in my heart that you all are helping us to evolve, and I honor you all throughout time and space. Thank you so much for helping our evolution. So, and 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 yeah, and you are that also, and I honor you in that way also. And yeah, we were talking about that before, about this, yeah, like this idea of healing as liberation, as lately the contemplator, they're showing it to me a lot like in a way like garments, or something like garments that we are, they're out outdated, they said. That's so,
That was so
you know, that's so 2 years ago. Like, you do not want to be seen in that. That's funny.
That's funny.
And then when the garment is released or something, you're like, oh my God, you know, that you're afraid to let it go, that it's like there's an attachment, like, oh, I don't know, I got really attached to that. And then, but what happens when you let it go? There's like free, you know, liberation. These attachments that we're not even aware that are attachments, you know, that we have these energetic attachments to ideas of ourselves. Like if we release these like social connections or something, then who will I be?
Yeah.
Are we attached to that for our sense of self?
Yeah.
You know, can we be so rooted in our own being that we're not attached to others' view of us? Like we need that being seen in some way. Like can we be so rooted in our being that it's not necessary? We can release those attachments to the point that we can just then respect them and their sovereignty, and honor them and whatever they choose, and whatever they choose to see or not see. You know, that this is how I've experienced it. And we were talking about this before, that I felt that life started working once upon a time when I dedicated to my healing. That's when it felt like life started working. And ever since then, that's where my resources go. Like that's the heart of it, is healing. And when my resources go there, and when I say resources, I'm saying it's oftentimes like the last of the resources. I mean, I connect to abundant energy, and so I'm not thinking that's the last of the resources. It goes back to what you're saying too about we're creators. We're creators, and that's what I kept hearing people talk about, that these different malevolent beings know that we're creators, and so they're manipulating us into creating for them. And so that's what I study. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm a creator, I want to study that. What am I creating? You know, how am I creating it? What is causing that creation to happen? To learn, to understand what is this instrument, you know? And but yeah, there's this, that when we, and it really has been like that for so many years, is that's when I notice it works. When I put my resources into healing, when I make offerings to the other world, when I like, that's where I'm choosing to make it matter. And each of those like skins that burn out, or the way a lot of times they'll say, we don't see them as they are, we see them as we are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so we keep like letting those, um, like the lenses on the
Yeah.
eyes, you heal, you release it.
Yeah.
Then and then you don't see that anymore. You see totally new each time.
Yeah.
And so where people may feel frustrated that not everybody is singing like they are, well, that's that's beautiful, and not everybody is meant to see the same the
It's
way.
like, that's the point.
Why would we be all of these different, I don't know, some people will say like creator, creatress, like sent these like fractal expressions of itself, and it's
Mhm.
like the universe seeing itself in all of these creative ways that it is about the creation, it is about the expression of creativity. And that's how they always spark me, is to, well, let's see what's possible, what's
Yeah.
possible with healing, what's possible if we put a word on water and it changes crystalline. Well, what is the water like if I do this?
Yeah.
And I told you I was experimenting with that recently, and I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. It's
Yeah.
connecting with the water and the ether. And I was hearing recently that, well, just basically like the power and the potency of water as its ability to hold, um, information,
Oh
knowledge,
yeah.
its capacity, it's like great capacity. And the way I've been experiencing this recently is I'm drinking this water, whatever the water is, I'm just kind of really experimenting with different
Yeah.
intentions. I put it on and I drink it. And what I see happen is it's like drawing in all this information from the ether. It goes,
Mm-hmm.
and then it comes in, and I'm like, whoa, that is fascinating, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's, and we talk about this too, that it's like, okay, so if we're mostly water,
Yeah.
and how are we talking to each other?
Yeah.
And or thinking is just the same, because I believe we're headed into telepathy.
Oh, totally.
But as the veil
Yeah.
is thinning, it's like you can feel it. You can feel
Yeah.
the telepathic exchange becoming more conscious, you
Yeah.
know? So then it's like, yeah, the universe says, well, what would you like to experience? How would you like to experience yourself?
Yeah.
What would you like to experience while you're here? Because I believe so much of this, it is about our experience. It is about, are we valuing experience?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because we've so much been conditioned to believe it's about the thing or the object. I value experience.
Yeah.
I value experience. And so if I was to die today and I would be looking at my life, or if I was a grandmother and looking to a daughter who was living like that, I would say, right on. You really dared to live.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
want, well, I don't know, maybe a mom doesn't want the child to do that. Maybe it's easier for the grandmother to be like that. It's like experience,
Yeah.
do we learn from our experience to be just like being willing to, well, I don't know, let me try something like this.
Yeah.
We're seeing that big groups of energy saying a thing and being in the same energy, and then it's like a time loop.
Yeah.
It's a time loop. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a Groundhog's Day. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Like,
Don't
help
want to
me
do
out
this
with
again.
Groundhog's Day. No, thank you. So or have you noticed that, let's say about that, the healing as liberation, like how does
Oh
it feel
yeah.
liberating?
Yeah. Well, because there's a lot of layers to that, because there's first like the facade, or maybe like the story that we have about ourselves, that we identify as like, oh, this is who I am. And like,
Mhm.
I know when I was younger, for sure, like I bought into that, and it was scary to think of, like, I can think of an example, like, I'm a nice girl. Like that was something like, you're supposed to be a nice
Yeah,
girl. So like being a
yeah,
nice girl. But what that also meant was that I always put myself last. Now, like I remember like high school having that conversation with one of my basketball teammates, and she was like, "You're just so nice. You're such a nice girl." I think it's the words that she said, and I
Mhm.
remember being like, "That didn't feel like a nice thing." Like having that, like you're such a nice girl, that didn't feel like a compliment. It kind of
Yeah,
felt like a way of saying like you just get taken advantage of, and like you don't stand up for yourself. You don't have like a foundation, you know, and because you're a nice girl, you don't say anything about it. You just kind of like
right.
take it in. But it's interesting though because now that I look back, I'm like, oh, I was just afraid of, well, who else am I? And like now I'm like I'm curious of like what else am I going to discover about myself. I don't think I uh, for so long I hold I'm like, who am I? Who am I? And now I'm like, oh, what else am I going to learn about myself that I
Mhm.
haven't like met yet? And that's a completely different way of living.
Mhm.
One is like, I think
Like,
so many people are attached to these identities. They're like, I'm a thing, whereas
wow.
like we're energy. So what else is there to learn? How else can I learn how I can play with energy and be the energetic being that I am instead of being a stuck energy thing.
The reason why I'm saying wow, well, that's beautiful, and also the reason why I was saying wow is because how they're always saying, it's good to ask questions, and just when you asked that question, right when you did that, it was
Mm-hmm.
like when you asked that question, it was like you went into light. Like there was this like
Mm-hmm.
light action that happened when you just asked that question. I was like, whoa, that's powerful. When you asked
Yeah,
that, it was like this light thing just happened just by asking that question, it was like it brought that potential or that
yeah,
potentiality or something. It was this light blue thing that just happened. I was like, whoa,
yeah.
I've heard the quantum physicists, I don't know how you say that
Physicist,
name, but physicists, the quantum physicists,
physicist.
that they talk about the power of the question.
Oh
And
yeah,
anyway, when you just did that, it was like, it just did a whole, like, just by asking that question.
yeah. It's a powerful one. It's a question we don't think to ask ourselves. Like I'm
Yeah.
working with teenagers. I just started last week, and I'm working with this program that's supposed to help them like prepare for what they will do after high school. And like the way it's funny because it's like me and the content are like have different thoughts. Like the content is one thing, and then what I have experienced and know is another thing. And so it's interesting to like, okay, how to like find the middle ground because I
Mhm.
think and just in the little different seeds that I've like put down is so out there concept wise for them. It's like blank faces of like
Wow.
when it just which is I mean sad and also just really funny for me to experience of like
Wow.
something that's just like it's like is there any fertile soil here? It's like anything.
Wow.
But it's interesting because it's I feel challenged. I'm like, okay, so then how do you find that middle space of like
Yeah.
a question of like what are you creating in your life? Like if I were to ask that, they'd be like, they'd be like silence. But then thinking of like, well, what brings you joy? What's something that brings you joy? You know, maybe there's an answer to that, maybe not. But it's just interesting because it's these are questions like I feel for the youth of today because they're living
Yeah.
in they're having a totally and I'm like duh of course but they're really having a totally different experience than I could possibly have imagined being their age growing in like in this and at the same time there's so many youth from today that inspire me to no end,
Mhm.
so it's like both are existing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm grateful to that you're, how am I trying to say that? Basically, I'm happy for them that they're able to work with you. That's what I'm trying to say. I imagine it's maybe more supportive than they're expressing. I mean, I know you, well, I don't know you because I
I
don't
don't even
know
know me.
anybody, because that would be to say that I know you and I don't know myself like that. I'm saying Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know you in that way, like, oh, I know Natalie. No, because that would be not honoring your mystery. No, I'm not saying that. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
That my feeling is that it's so, I'm happy that they're getting to work with you. That's my feeling of what I'm trying to
nice.
express. And also what you were saying too, I was mentioning to you that I was just connecting with my niece and her boyfriend, and I was startled at the energy or the lack thereof. I was startled by it
Yeah,
because of knowing how optimistic in heart and energy my niece usually is, that I know her through the years. And yeah, they felt like flattened,
yeah,
and they reached out to me about, they were having questions, they're like kind of digging into things to try to understand what's going on because they know they're being lied to.
yeah,
So they know that,
yeah,
they know they're being lied to, and so they're digging, and so they're messaging me, and I was, kind of encouraging them, take a deep breath. There's really, really like benevolent forces of, you know, that are in motion, I
yeah,
believe. And so I let them know if they wanted to, we could connect, and I could just help them to like support their spiritual connectedness,
yeah,
so
yeah,
they can feel, I can just tell them some practices and see. So it was like guiding them through these practices. And um well, one, it was so beautiful to see them transform, to see
mhm,
them, their light come stronger again. I felt that
yeah,
was really beautiful. And even though they felt so flat, like flatline or something in the beginning, but I noticed it's so different with, I don't know if you experience this with them, but like the younger energies, it's so much, they're like, they don't have all the layers of conditioning. And
mm,
so if they're choosing to, there's just more openness. That's what I feel like I experienced with them. And so I could watch the energy transform into radiance. And then and it was just kind of like flowing with it, and like kind of, energy, helping them to connect with energy and to find these ways that they're, and notice that would spark,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
magical, they're meant to be magical, I believe. And this is like the next generations, I feel, is magic. And so the more, towards the end, they were saying, oh, I feel so much better, I feel so much more like myself. And that's the
mm,
point, is
yeah,
that for us all, like, I believe we're going to feel most confident when we feel most like our true essence.
yeah,
We're truly rooted in our essence.
yeah,
So, and I have this weird vision that it just came in again, and it's so bizarre, but it's like the way spirit is showing, and it's connected. I think they're asking me to talk with you about the arcs because they showed me
feeling that
this
too.
so many. They showed me this so many times that. Wait, what did you say?
I was feeling that too.
Yeah, yeah. That it's so funny lately the way they'll. And I want to know. This is something I want to ask you too. Is like, it's so, those energies are so loud, and that are going on in the, just the regular right now, that's
Yeah,
a lot of the energies like,
yeah.
and I think that we want you to be a part of it. I'm like, no.
It's like reminds me of like toddlers having a temper tantrum,
What's
you
that?
know? It's like a
Yeah.
toddler, like you're in a restaurant and like toddlers having like a temper tantrum, and it's like so loud, and you see people are like trying to not to get like activated, but like everyone's
It
activated.
was like,
Like I had an experience of this a few days ago, and I was like internally cracking up because I was like watching everyone responding to this toddler being a child, like a child being a child, and
all being
loud, and like that's I'm like this is like a small vision of like the bigger bigger what's happening around the world, of like just the acting out of that. Yeah,
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 exactly. And that is, yeah, that's what they were showing me this morning too, of like, when we're not taking responsibility for our energy and healing those parts, we're saying it is your responsibility to be my parent. It is your responsibility. And when we are doing it, when we're in that dynamic, it's really heavy for the other.
Oh yeah.
And I know, like, I was reflecting on relationships, romantic relationships I've been on before, and they probably had their way of doing it. I had my way of doing it, and it's heavy. It's heavy for the other person, because because that's not the way it's meant to be. And the other person isn't meant to carry our energy.
Yeah.
So it'll feel heavy, you know?
Yeah.
But so these ways that they send, so sometimes they've been sending me messages through songs. It'll put a song in my head and I'm like, oh, okay, they're telling me. And the messages I continue to get from them was like, you know, like if you're running a marathon or something, you're so, oh, you can do it. If I do something that it's like that, and I'll get the chills, or like, yes, do more of that, you know, you're getting closer. And so it feels like that. And so they'll put songs in where if I get into fear and stuff, they'll put a song in, and I'm like, okay, they're saying it's going to be so beautiful. And then, but it's funny because they keep putting in my head the Jetsons. Did you ever watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put that in my head so many times, and I'm like,
that's hilarious.
You're telling me you're talking about it's one of the probably the easiest way that they can show me that's like talk about that, give energy to that. Not Jetsons, not Jetsons, but the Jetsons, I loved it when I was a kid, probably because I was a starseed, and I was like, yeah, that's going to be great. We're going to do that. And it's going to be free technology. It's not going to be like the, you know, kind of technology. It's going to be the, you know, the one that it's not grating on the senses, not the sound, not anything where you need to heal your temple because of the sounds and the environment, you know, from the odors and everything. But so I know that we're going to be closing here soon, and time just breezes by when we connect.
It really does.
So fast. So fast. So fast. I don't know why. I get silly when I'm with you. Oh my god, it's fun. Yeah, like why not have fun? They can tell me I've been saying something recently that makes me laugh. They're like, they're saying like, what is it that they're saying? They're saying, try being interesting or something. They're like, they're putting that message out to humans. It's like, try being interesting. I thought it was funny. Try being interesting. Oh yeah, the spaceships, right? So yeah, the Jetsons, right? Because those are the messages they continue to show me. And I was mentioning that I feel like when I was first finding a way to anchor into my reality field that the other world is real, I needed to hold that reality very steady and like that light steady. And I just really intentionally created friendships and connected with people so that it could anchor in this dimension. So it was able to kind of be integrated in this dimension. So it's not something that I'm holding and feeling so isolated with that. So it was very intentional of like, okay, well, we need to also integrate this into community. And so we need to be able to connect and, you know, come together with others that we're able to share openly about these things so they can integrate, so we don't feel like separate from the whole, because we do have that need to be a part of, you know, something greater. Right. And I've noticed that recently is it's taken, they keep asking me to listen to these different interviews, the different experiencers, and hear their experiences and that. So it's like creating this fire and wire, you know, in this and to be able to kind of like integrate this into reality, because what they're showing is this is where we're headed so
Yeah.
soon, not like far away, like this year is
Yeah.
happening. Like
Yeah.
I said, it's like not
Yeah.
way far out, and it's real already for people, but that the collective will understand that it's real. So I was telling you that I was telling you that about this awesome woman that I've listened to and her experience of being a pilot and that, and so I'll pass it over to you. And then what your experience was, and I'll first say before is that I noticed when I was telling you the story, when I started talking about it, I noticed that I felt really strong energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I feel really, really strong energy right now around. And so, and then, yeah, so I sent you a video.
Yeah, so the woman that she's speaking about is Katie Raine, I think is how you say it, but not. I think her last name Raine. I think is how it's spelled. And it
Uh-huh.
was a particular interview with uh, Janine, who does Tower by Janine,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there was another person that I can't remember his name. I feel really bad. There was a guy in the video too, and it was a conversation, and they were talking. Katie was sharing about her story of like her remembering of why she's here, and she was talking about these arcs. And as I was listening to this video that's on YouTube, this interview, I started having like sparks of like, oh, like dots connecting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I'm like, oh, and Katie was guided to share her story because specifically because and like not having attachment, just like share the story because it's going to activate people. Um, and some people will get activated in a good way, and some people will get like the activation of remembering, and some people will get triggered, and that's kind of like what happens. Honestly, we can't control that. So many
Yeah.
people are afraid of sharing the stories because they're like, oh well, I'm afraid of how that's gonna impact. I'm like, at this point, we just need to release any control of that. Share
Yeah.
for the sake of sharing. Those who will be receiving it will receive. Who don't receive, don't receive. It's all good. Keep it moving, because
Yeah.
really, like, what are we doing? But I'm happy Katie shared because then it was reminding. I was remembering things that Contombly have told me through the years of things that I'm supposed to do, and which didn't make sense to me. But now I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense to me now. And I'm
Yeah.
a very uh, active dreamer. I dream a lot when I sleep, and like they feel like I'm pretty sure I go somewhere when I sleep. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't just like have like my imagination does a thing when I sleep. Like I travel, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I've recently, actually this week, had a dream that I was telling Liv about, and after listening to the interview, I realized I'm like, oh, that wasn't a building, that was a ship that I was in, and I was seeing particular things that weren't supposed to be happening on that ship, and I'm like still like integrating that, but like the remembering and like all this stuff is in my field still marinating is maybe the best way to describe it. Um, yeah, and I can go into so many different things of like, oh yeah, I remember we were in Mongolia and we were driving by this mountain range and I pointed to the mountain range and I looked at Liv. I said, "There's a ship there," and she was like, "A ship?" I was like, "Yeah, there's a spaceship laying on that mountain range." And I said it so like that was so I was so sure about it. Like there was no question. Like
Mm-hmm.
you know if the part of me that's like is this real, is this not real, like if that was kicked in, I probably wouldn't have shared anything, but because it was I felt it was so it was as if I was saying there's a tree right there and Liv can see the tree, like we could both see the tree, like that's how like it just that's what it is. And um the reason why I'm sharing, I mean, I hope you maybe are inspired to look up her video and see what ignites for within you. And also remembering what somebody told us recently about make spirit more believable. I feel that
Mm-hmm.
is such a strong. That's it. In I don't want, it's not simple. It's not as simple, but it's so,
Will,
it's such a,
will you tell that for that part where they said make spirit more believable? Will you say what came right before that? Because they were, it was like part of a message of what
it
they were
was,
saying. Remember, because it was like it felt like it was something like, and if you say to us, control that you don't understand, this
oh
is
yeah,
all really real or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
something like that.
yeah. It was just really what we've been talking about how the, what is making us feel is like the dominating reality, because
Yes.
they're really loud and they're very intense, and it's like, we've been indoctrinated from birth to believe that that's what it is, that is so loud that it makes this like uh heaven on earth that is birthing, and it's
Mm,
not even like birthing like it's birthed and now it's just like growing,
mm,
makes it seem like that's not impossible because this is so strong and
right,
something that
right,
I'm used to, and I know where I am in this story or this
right,
constellation,
right,
but
right,
there's
right,
it's
right.
impossible that that can be real. But then I'm sharing with you that this is real, and I know this is real because I have experienced it and I have felt it, and I know I'm consenting to that being real.
Yes.
And so I am choosing to put my energy into focusing on the ways that that can be fed more, like
Yeah.
this thing that's growing. Like, how can I consciously allow my energy to be devoted to supporting and stewarding that into being?
Mhm.
And that takes healing. Like, I'm in a process of continuously doing my own healing because what you were speaking before about the physicist that was just showing the diagrams and stuff about how energy, like you were explaining before, Liv, before we started the recording, of
Yeah.
like the toroidal field that we all have, that
Yeah.
our energy field is a toroidal field, and I was like, yeah, it's magnetizing, it magnetizes things. I was like, but if we have unhealed stuff, we're also magnetizing that. And so that's why it's so important for us to take responsibility of our healing, because then we can shift from consciously or unconsciously giving our energy away to continuously creating what has been in the past. And
Yeah.
when we take responsibility for our own healing, then we can actually shift consciously to creating a new life, a
Right.
new way
Yeah.
of being.
Yeah, you explain it. You explain it really well because you explain it. It's concise and it's like yeah, it's like you the way you describe it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see it when you say it like that. It's like the magnet. And the second part of what you said is like, what were you saying? Something about like the unhealed parts. Also, it's going to magnetize that
Yeah,
also the toroidal field.
totally. Yeah,
It's
because
like
it's part
physics,
of that, like it's part of the magnetism of our, like, our being.
right? Right.
And I'm not saying this like
Right.
as some like philosophical thing. I'm literally telling you as someone who's experienced this by doing her own healing. Like,
Right. It's like
as I do my own healing, I've experienced these this changes.
right, 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 right.
Because we're sovereign beings and we have choice. So we can choose to focus on all the bad things, or we can choose to focus on all the good things, and it's our choice.
Yeah, and what you were saying, I know we're about to close, but I was also wanting to say also before you were talking about the universe and everything, something that I've been practicing recently because I realized from doing healing is that I noticed that I had like a background story, a story in my
Mm,
subconscious that was always saying um, something like something bad is always going to happen.
mm-hmm.
Something like that, learning as a child, because something bad always, if there's anything good, something bad is coming, or something like that,
Yeah, like the other shoe's gonna drop.
Yeah, like that kind
Yeah,
of thing. And so I've been working diligently at getting in there and saying, okay, let's try something else. Let's
yeah,
try things are always working out,
yeah,
or like the universe loves that, like just our belief,
yeah,
the beliefs that we hold that are affecting how we are experiencing reality. It's
Yeah.
not a small thing. You know, if you're saying the universe loves me, you
Yeah.
know, the universe loves us,
Yeah.
that the universe is supporting our evolution.
Yeah.
And to just use our imagination, well, if the universe is in support of our evolution, then how is this supporting my evolution? How can I be with this in a way? How can I meet the universe in that way, saying they're they're wanting us to grow and evolve?
Yeah.
And in this next, the way I believe is the space, it's what you're talking about with the arcs and everything, and how the Kentucky can say these things, and there's these little like alive seeds that exist
Mhm.
outside of time and space that I
Mhm.
realized I've been remembering that, like Maladama, he would say these things, and these little alive seeds
Mhm.
that he would say these things, and now I'm experiencing those seeds opening up. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, they're like these little golden seeds,
Yeah.
you know, these little golden seeds from spirit, and it like opens at the right time, it's going to open
Yeah.
up. And then and then and then it's like, oh, okay, right, all right, well, if we're about to be entering this just magnificent era, and yes, of course we don't want to leave anybody behind, yes, of course we love and care about our human relatives and
Mhm.
that, so wouldn't we be able to be more supportive if we're able to hold a positive current?
Yeah.
Aren't we able to be more supportive if we're feeling like joy and levity and light? Because we're in the light, we're able to
Yeah.
hold light.
Yeah.
And isn't it light that is able to support people in the darkness?
Yeah.
So how do we be light?
Yeah.
It's like, ah, that's what the contemplative said, that's how you be light. Because when you do that, you're emitting light. It's this
Yeah.
like, they say it's like these light sprays that come off when you're like, ah.
It is true though. That's
Like,
another thing. That's another thing too. Katie was saying in one of the videos that I was watching. She
yeah,
shared something that I was like, "Oh yeah, I agree with that completely." Because she says that like she remembers when it's time to remember. It doesn't happen like you can't speed it up, but she's devoting herself to her own healing. And
yes,
like and in that, as she heals, what it does is it's allowing her field to expand, and as her field expands, then she gets more downloads. And I'm like, yes, that's what I've
yeah,
experienced too.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah,
wasn't until I truly started devoting my healing, like really actually going deep into my healing, that what had happened was like what we were talking about, those things kind of melt away, and it's
yeah,
those identities or whatever, like programming and blah blah blah, all those things get out of the way that are blocking you from receiving. And sometimes, we might have like energetic implants that have like malevolent beings have placed into our
yeah,
field to like I've had those things removed. Like those are things that like they're real, and
yeah,
you have those technologies removed from your field, from your energetic field, from all of your bodies, and then it's like the antenna. It's like this the yeah, the antenna gets clearer and clearer. We're able to integrate more with our higher selves and know. There's people who live on this earth that have never broken connection with their higher self. So they're the star seeds that remember why they're here, and they are people who have telepathy and telekinesis, and like since childhood they're able to do these things.
yeah,
And it's that's not just like one off. Like we all have that access. Every
yes,
single one of us have that. Uh, People are like, oh, but I'm not psychic. I'm like, you have the ability. Everyone has that ability to tap into those other senses. We have to stop believing that it's only some people
yes,
or only special people or whatever it may be, because that's not true. We are
yes,
all able to do those things. It's
yes,
just that we've either believed that we can't, we've limited ourselves, or uh, there's been interference. So in most cases with everyone, it's been interference,
right,
and it's upon us to take responsibility for ourselves and choose to at least be curious of what have I not learned about myself yet. No matter
right,
how old you are, no matter where you are on the earth, like just at least start that process of being curious. could there be more to me than I already know or have already experienced?
Right, and just what you're saying too, and uh, if somebody's saying they want to be psychic, just to experiment, say, I am psychic.
Yeah.
Write it on the water, just experiment with it and drink
Yeah.
it, see what happens. But
Yeah.
speaking of water, speaking of water, I wanted people to know also about your healing circle that's happening tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Speaking
the grief
of water,
circles.
speaking of grief, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure because I don't know. I know, well, we'll send this in the newsletter today. I know so many, well, that are in the newsletter, like, know and love you, know as anyway, you get what I say about that, but it goes into like, do you know me? No, it's just mystery. We honor you as a mystery also, but anyway, they love you, is basically what I'm trying to say. And they might not know that you're having this grief circle tomorrow. And for those that are listening that haven't already sat with Natalie, well, I feel confident in saying you'll love working with her. So, but anyway, what people can know about that is the
Well,
circle.
all of July, I'm hosting collective grief circles because one of the things too is there's just so much as not being released, and because a lot of people are still sleeping, these collective grief circles are something that really Contumble told me to connect with the ancient ocean goddess about grief. That was an assignment that was given a while ago and have been following with. And she showed me that it's important for people to clear collective grief. Whoever, and you know, maybe you're having an experience of loss or your grief is present for you, and show up to the circle. And it's a circle that we're going to clear using the emotion code. We're going to clear as a mini collective representing the bigger collective. We're going to clear trapped energy from the earth and having that ripple out to the collective itself.
Beautiful.
Um, and yeah, that's the short snippet of that ceremony. It's a really beautiful ceremony. It's always different and dynamic, and I am so very grateful um, for the love from the ocean to support us in this way, because that's what it feels. It's like this intensely strong maternal love from this ancient being who wants all of life to be in harmony again. Like I almost want to cry when I say that because it really feels it's like a mother who's seeing all her children fighting and all she wants is for them to be harmonious again. To remember that they're connected, to remember that they are loved, that they are perfect as they are. That's what it feels like. And so these circles are feel for me like my devotion to her to help her experience that again. Because this is a blue planet and the ocean loves us. It's created all of life here. And so, yes, I hope you'll join me. You can join me tomorrow. Um, I'll be hosting them in July every Saturday, and then in August I'll gonna feel into what day feels right. But I'll be doing it consistently in August as well.
Well, I think when I think Sylvie's gonna put your website in there, but anyway, I guess in case they don't have your
Oh
website.
yeah. Yeah, you can go to tendingyourspirit.com. And you can find the collective there's a lot there. But if you go in offerings and you go to collective I forget what it says. I think it's collective group clearing because there's two different kinds that I hold. But you'll find the collective grief clearing circles in there. Or you can email me as well. But go to the website first. That's your best bet. And yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm excited for people to be able to experience that healing with you, and I feel like the Contumely are, honoring you all gathering, and yeah, helping to, because it is, we remember more and more that we're all a part of each other. We're all connected. Just like what you're saying, as it clears, it like sends that whole ripple into the whole field. And so people remember, oh, okay, it helps the energy to move for everybody.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing the beautiful sacred work. And
Well, thank you to you and Contemplate for planting that seed in my heart. Because if
oh, thank you.
it wasn't for you and Contemplate, I wouldn't have even thought of working with grief in this way. And it has been a very beautiful, fertile energy to be in relationship with.
I was laughing because when I looked at them to tune into them, they did like a summer song. we can read into what does that mean, but so we love you and we'll look forward to soon. And yeah, sending love to those of you that are listening, and may this love keep rippling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.